When you look at Iran today, I mean, what do you see with Ahmadinejad? Is he, has it moved forward from the time when the Shah ruled or the Ayatollah ruled, or it hasn't moved at all? I mean, do you see a progression at all?
Yeah, Iran is a fantastically modern country. You know, it's, in fact, I was just speaking to someone who came to tell me that she went to Iran a couple of years ago and how surprised she was by it.
How about the gender dynamic? Is it easy for women such as yourself to become writers or journalists, or does it fall into the stereotype of the Islamic country as far as women
there's a lot
empowerment
more,
is concerned?
you know, there's a lot more freedom for women in Iran than people imagine. People outside Iran imagine that, you know, that Iran has a sort of Taliban system of government. It's just not true. Iranian women, you know, got the vote in 1964. We were the first women in the Middle East to get the vote. You know, we drive, we own property, we get educated, all of this stuff. You know, all things that, for example, our Kuwaiti sisters didn't get the vote until I think a couple of years ago. I mean, I'm, you know, not sure exactly, but very recently. Women in Saudi Arabia, they can't even drive, let alone leave the house without a man, you know. But Iran is not like that. When you go to Iran, what you see in public space is lots of women. 65% of university graduates are girls.
So is there actually no gender barrier when it comes to the Western countries? Do you think it's a myth that the Western countries, it's completely easy for a woman, they're completely equal to a man's status? Or as a woman writer and a journalist, do you think that this entire Western liberal environment is a little overrated and it's not quite that simple?
I agree that it's not quite that simple. I don't think in the West we have absolute equality. I think that's an absolute yes, because you only have to examine and compare the salaries of men and women, and also look at, you know, the positions that men and women reach to see that there isn't equality. Because apart from anything else, our system in the West is not set up to encourage a woman to go on with her career if she has children or whatever it is. You know, they get penalized for that kind of thing. So there isn't equality in the West either. In Iran, there's no pretense at equality. I suppose that's the difference. It is a patriarchal society. There's no gender balance. Women are discriminated against. However, they still break through those barriers.
And are you seen as a role model by many of them?
I don't know.
Now, when you go back, do you get a lot of them saying that, you know, we'd like to go out and do what you've done? You've lived in Italy, you've lived in the UK, you've written for the leading magazines and publications across the world.
Well, you know, more than anything else, people tend to want to use my voice in the sense that they see that I have access to the world's media in a way that they don't. And they confide in me. I mean, it's a fantastically privileged position to be in. You know, it's like you get given these gifts. People tell you their stories, you know, gift after gift after gift. And they give you these stories because they want you to take them out to the world. And
you write much about Iran in your writing?
Well, it's been one of my specialist subjects. A lot of my journalism has been about Iran. I was nominated for an American Society of Magazine Editors Award last year for a long essay that I wrote about sexual politics in Iran.
I see.
And obviously now there's my book. So Iran it's very, very dear to my heart, you know, and I want very much, because I have a foot in Iran, I have a foot in the UK, I want to explain Iran to my other country because, you know, I've spent 30-something years growing up in...
And you find that's a hard thing to do? There are too many preconceived notions?
Yes.
The politics of war kind of supersedes any other complex discussion on Iran? Do you find that?
You know, people are very, very prejudiced, even when they don't want to be, and they don't realize that they are. I mean,
they've internalized it to an extent.
Absolutely, and also sometimes, you know, I could tell you so many stories of meetings I've had with great editors that I won't name, but if I want to work again. But, you know, they can't help it. I mean, I've had pieces of mine that have been edited to say exactly the opposite to what I'd written.
What do? You withdraw the piece?
No, I make them change it back.
Okay. Is it that easy?
Well, you ask and you hope that that's what gets printed. And if in the final analysis you're not... I mean, there was a piece that I wasn't happy, I just took my name off it. The problem is, you know, I remember I wrote one piece that was about women in Iran, and I said something like, you know, many women in Iran work and they have easy access to higher education. I wrote that. And the piece came back to me saying, women in Iran don't work and they have very little access to higher education. So
it was the opposite.
Exactly the opposite. And I really asked myself, why did they do that?
And why did they do that?
I mean, I really have no idea. But what I presume is because, you know, some sub-editor was being careless when they were, you know, working through the piece.
They had internalized that's the dynamic.
That's what I think. The prejudice came out, you know. So I found it really difficult to write about Iran, even though it was easy in a way to get commissions.
Sure.
But it was very hard to trust that what I really wanted to convey was what was going to be printed.